Hey y'all, I'm Lauren Venable. I am an energy healer and intuitive card reader. And I also I have a line of crystal healing products. And really today I want to share something that I call reframing. It's kind of like psychological reframing for anybody who has any psychology background. But I like to take it a step further to energetic reframing, where you can change the energy of your situation rather than just the thoughts and rather than just the mindset. It really takes it a step deeper to cover like the big picture. And so I just want to share like an example of, sorry, my computer's doing something weird. An example of energetic reframing and like how it works in the real world and how it like happens in real life. And then I'm going to break it down into steps and we'll talk about each little step of it. And then from there, depending on the time, if we have some time available, then I'll open it up for some questions and I can help people kind of, we can kind of start to work on reframing your situation and what's going on. So just big picture, reframing is really just the process of being able to see things differently and being willing to shift the story and shift the experience of what you're going through and what's going on. And so the holidays are a really great time to practice this. You'll have plenty of opportunities with family, with your partners, friendships, with food. That's also a relationship that kind of comes up for the holidays. I know that's like something I've always struggled with in the past. And I'm just starting to work through it through reframing. It's really kind of changing my relationship to emotional eating and those patterns. And it also is it's an amazing way to be able to pull yourself back and get through conflict and get through drama without getting swept away in it. And so that's always like my biggest thing. If I ever have one goal in this life, it is to allow chaos to happen around me rather than within me, and to be separated from it in a healthy way, like not with walls to where I'm actually attached to it but pretending not to be, but to where I'm actually just in this quiet, peaceful space in the center where I can observe and watch things happen around me. Um, that's my, if I can go through a day and know that I did that or tried to do that, then I'll be happy. So what we're actually going to do before we get started is just a quick grounding meditation to kind of all get us here in our body and pull our energy back so that we can just have ourselves fully present here to absorb and digest a lot of this stuff, because it can get, I don't know, I think it's good to just start with a grounded foundation so that we don't get lost in our heads about it. I know that's an easy space for me to go. So wherever you are, just get nice and comfortable, feet on the ground, closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and then just taking a moment to drop in, noticing the breath, noticing the body. Just get curious and observe how you're feeling without judgment, without stories, just simply observing, watching. Taking a few moments to get lost in the breath. Allow your awareness to rest with every in-breath and out-breath. Watching them grow longer, slower, deeper, filling up completely with every inhale, and softening and releasing completely with every exhale. filling and emptying. And then allow the breath to be natural. Allow the body to do the breathing. And take a moment to just think, like bring your awareness to your to-do list or anything that may distract you from this time and space. Anything that's pulling on your energy or your awareness. Maybe it's a conflict. Maybe it's an errand you have to run. And just imagine pulling that energy back to you. You can almost picture it like little fireflies lifting up off of that conflict, lifting up off of that to-do list, lifting up off of that person and flying back to you and landing somewhere in your body, maybe in your belly, in your heart. Maybe they land on your shoulders. Just begin to call back all these little pieces of you that you've scattered around on social media, scattered around in all the spaces you've been already today, scattered around in the future, in the ifs and the what ifs. And then just take some time to just soak it all in, leaning back slightly, feeling grounded, whole, safe, and supported. And knowing that this is what it feels like to be fully you. This is what it feels like to be in your space with your energy field whole and grounded and steady. This is your natural state, and it's here for you to return to anytime you need it. And so go ahead and take a few more breaths here. And when you're ready, you can use soft blinks to slowly, gently open the eyes. Returning back to this space just from a new space energetically, kind of taking this time to reset from where you were before the call. I know I was in a frantic space of, getting ready and preparing and doing the things. And so my energy was really up, and I noticed a huge shift in just how I feel sitting here in front of this camera now that I'm grounded and I've pulled my energy back from the things that were pulling on me. So so let's get started from this space. So when you start your energetic reframing, so this is something that I use it as a tool for finding balance, for finding this space in the middle of chaos. And so my favorite way to do that is to start off with just getting curious. Like that is step number one. There's 5 steps to this. So step number 1 is just get curious about what's going on, about how you're feeling. What's happening here and how do I feel? So I'll start with an example. Yesterday was the first day of this party, and I was feeling like all the feels. I was excited, I was nervous, I was a little bit terrified. I was also like overwhelmed, I was feeling stressed. And I mean, I put this party together at the absolute last of minutes. Like, I think it was the day before Thanksgiving. The idea hit me, and I contacted my favorite people in this little field with me and like pulled them together, and we got this all together and ready by Sunday. And then I spent last week doing the promotion for it, and then this week is the actual party. Plus I have, a lot of other stuff going on in my with work, with like my bath bomb business and stuff. So it's just been a crazy time. And yesterday I woke up at 6 o'clock and worked nonstop until the call at 2. And I was just in this space of like, this cannot be what this week is like. Like, I cannot be in this space all day, every day this week, because this is just too much. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was super stressed. I was losing my temper with my little boy. Everything he did drove me nuts. I mean, everything he does drives me nuts already, but on a whole nother level. And so I stopped and got curious, like, okay, what's happening here? And it's like, you just kind of step back for a minute and observe your situation. And so then I was able to identify, like, okay, I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling unsupported. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling a lot of different things. And so what feeling is bringing me to this space of overwhelm, of shutdown? Like, what is making me want to just hide under a blanket right now? And it was like the feelings of being unsupported and being unsafe and being overwhelmed with too much to do and no idea how I was going to get it all done. And so I got curious, and that was what came of it. And so then the next step is to get grounded in that. And so I just took a few breaths and just like remembered that it was going to be fine. Like, you can even try that, just taking a nice big inhale and letting it all out through your mouth. It really can just like let it all build and let it go. It's one of the, Inga shared something similar in her grounding video yesterday, shaking it out. And it's true, it just helps you to like let all the feels build up, let the nervousness and the anxiety build, and then let it go. And so that really is like step one, get curious. Step two, get grounded in it. So I got grounded in the fact that, like, okay, I am feeling overwhelmed and it's okay. I'm safe. And I used my tips. If you need more grounding tips, definitely catch the replay of Inga's video. Hers was awesome yesterday. But you can just take some breaths and just identify how you're feeling and kind of own it. So if you're angry, like sometimes just acknowledging like, okay, I'm super angry can kind of bring you back to this centered space. And in that moment, when you get grounded in what's happening, that is when you pull your power back from the feeling and from the situation and call it back to yourself. And then you have the power to change it, because your power is no longer outside of you with this feeling of overwhelm or stress or anger or fear or resentment, whatever it is that you're feeling, grief, loneliness, sadness, anything that you're feeling. Our emotions have this like tricky way of just taking over and like pulling us along like a balloon. But when you can identify them, when you can get curious and ask, what am I feeling? And then identify it, it automatically like pulls you back, and no longer are you being dragged around by that feeling, because you're in your space observing the feeling rather than being in the feeling space and wondering where the hell you are and how you're going to get through that feeling space. So that is like the biggest one. That's step number 2. And that's what this week is all about, is just learning tips and tools for how to get grounded and how to come back to your center so that you can come and do the work. So yeah, I got curious about what I was really feeling and realized like, okay, I'm feeling unsupported. I'm feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work I have to do. And then I got grounded in that. I just accepted it and realized like, okay, it's okay to feel unsupported. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel like I have too much work to do. And then you have to tap into a willingness to see it differently and a willingness to experience it differently. Because if you're not willing to experience something different, then you're not going to. And you can go through these steps 100 times a day and it won't do anything for you. If you're not willing to change it, and a lot of times like you're probably thinking like, of course I would want to change it. Why would I not want to change this? It's awful and I hate it. But sometimes we love how awful it is and how much we hate it. Like we get really attached to that story. And it kind of becomes your identity. It kind of becomes who you are. And it becomes a piece of who you are for sure. And so it can be scary to pull yourself back from that identity and to separate yourself from it a bit and say like, okay, I'm willing to not be this person that is so unsupported. And that's a little scary, especially if you've been that person that's unsupported your whole life, or for several months, or for several years. It can be really hard to let that go. So know that that willingness is something that is absolutely necessary. You don't have to know how to do it. You don't have to know how to shift it, how to change it. You don't have to know anything other than how you're feeling, and that you're willing to feel differently, and that you're willing to see it differently. That willingness is like key. You hear so many successful people and like successful athletes, and they'll tell you like their secret to success was just their willingness to show up and do the work and believe in themselves and get, continue to show up. But if they didn't have that willingness, then they would have never gotten there. And so it's the same thing with energy work. It's the same thing with like mental process and this reframing process. If you're not willing to reframe it and experience it differently, then you're not gonna. And so if you're stuck on that step, if you find like, I've been dealing with some anger, I've had like a lot of stuff going on that has just really made me so angry. And usually the bottom underlying feelings of anger is fear. At the end of the day, it's fear, it's grief. Usually anger is just a secondary symptom of fear or sadness or grief. And so I wasn't ready to shift it. I wanted to be angry. Like I was on the phone with a friend and she's like offering me, all these different perspectives. And I'm like, I just need to be angry for a little while. I'm really not ready to do the work. I'm tired of doing the work. I'm tired of working the layers. I'm tired of looking for the lesson. Like I'm sick of this shit and I'm just angry right now. And so sometimes you do need to just be there. But if it's something bigger than that, if it's something bigger than momentary and it's this pattern in your life, like I'm sure you can all think of like one thing that you've said a million times in your life about why something that you want can't happen. So for me, it was losing weight. I mean, I'm just someone who doesn't lose weight easily. I can't tell you how many times I said that. It's so hard for me to lose weight. It's just my body type, or it's my hormones, or it's this, or it's that. I am someone who struggles to lose weight. I said it almost daily for years. And then through this process, I've actually lost 12 pounds in like a month because I got curious every time I would go to eat. I would get grounded when I would go to eat. And I was willing to have a different relationship with food. So that's where that willingness comes in right there. But I feel like I just took a little tangent. Give me a second. What was I saying right before that? Anyone type it in the chat box. Oh, I can do this. Okay, yeah, so it's about the anger. So if you're like, there we go. If it's something big like that, if it's like your beliefs around losing weight, or if it's like your beliefs around relationships, if you feel like, I'm just not the one that's going to ever be picked, or like, okay, well, these relationships are for that kind of person. Or if it's about money, like I'm just someone who struggles to make money, like money doesn't come to me easy, or I can't bring in money because of fill in the blanks. That's like the big picture stuff that reframing is really going to help you with. And so if you're like really resistant to it and you're just not ready to go there yet, you're not ready to do the work, but you are willing to get curious about it and identify the situation, then if you take one thing away from this, let it be these next two sentences. This is what you say in that moment. I am willing to see this differently. Please show me how. I am willing to experience something better than this, or something different than this. You can even get super specific and like just say, I am willing to experience this differently. Please show me how. And you can ask your angels, you can ask your guides, God, spirit, the universe, whoever it is that you talk to. Whoa, I just saw a giant bug walking on my wall. I'll have to ask Lindsay about that, what that spirit meaning is. A huge like spider bug. But okay, so that would be the one thing. If you take one thing away from this like hour of me babbling, let it be those two sentences, because that is when you open yourself up to shift. That is when you open yourself up for miracles to happen and for things to change and for good things to come into your life. If you're not yet willing to see it different, if you're not ready to act on that willingness, but you do want something different. Like you do want more money in your bank account. You do want close relationships. You do want to lose weight. You do want to feel connected to your family. But if you're just not really ready to go into those deeper levels of that, because that is where some murky shit lies. Like, I get it. It can be really scary to go and dive right into working those layers. So that's where you start. You just say like, okay, I am willing to see this differently. Just show me what to do. And you'll almost always get a sign, like something will pop up or someone will come into your life. You'll find something, you can just like trust that it's coming, that your guidance is coming. If you can just practice those 2 sentences, just repeat them as much as you need to. So I'm like recapping these as we go, because I know we have some people joining late, or if you missed a step. So step number 1 is to get curious. Step number 2 is to get grounded in what's happening now. Get grounded in your reality of what is going on now. And that is when you pull your power back from the feeling and from the situation and call it back to your center, so that you can then act on your willingness to change things. And that is when you open yourself up for things to change. That's when you open the door, or you unblock that energy and allow it to flow, so that it can change into something better for you. And so from there, that's when we dive in and ask the questions. And one of my absolute favorite questions, and it's Inga's too, because she brought it up yesterday, is what do I need? What do I need right now? So to return to my example, it's getting ready for this party. I worked from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. nonstop yesterday and was still feeling like overwhelmed. I knew that was not what I wanted this week to look like. So I got grounded in that. I got curious and got grounded. So I'm feeling overwhelmed and unsupported. And then I got grounded in it. Like, this is not how I want to feel. And I got willing to shift it. Like, I'm willing for this week to happen differently. I am so willing to experience this week with more ease and more joy and without the stress. So what do I need for that to happen? And it just came to me. I knew like, okay, I have to do a lot of work today. Today is going to be a big work day. And I need to get all of my emails scheduled out and automated, so that I don't have to be at my computer typing up and sending out emails twice a day, plus showing up for the party. Like, then I'm free to show up in my group and to show up for my son and to show up for myself and the other aspects of my business. Because honestly, spending every 5 days of this week typing emails is not a good use of my energy. So I did it. Like, I sat down yesterday and I got all of my emails typed up and automated and scheduled out and ready to go. And I was able to experience this day today, which is the next day, so much differently. Like, my house is clean today, or it was. Gus destroyed it already, but I cleaned my house. I took care of me. I cooked a healthy lunch. Like, I didn't freak out and get nervous and go to that anxiety place before my call. Like, I was able to stay really grounded and centered and open-hearted today. Like, I was able to just soak up all the good vibes from yesterday and all of the people who have shown up live, who have shown up in the group, who have signed up for the for the email list, and just absorb all of that goodness and let it soak in. And I'm in a much better space. And I know the rest of this week is going to be amazing, because now I'm freed up to go connect in the group with everybody, or to show up on these calls from a more authentic, whole place. And so that was step number 4, do the work. Whatever comes up from your questions is to do the work. Go and do it. Just thinking about it, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel lighter just thinking oh, if I scheduled all my emails, this week would be great. And then part of you will feel like you don't have to actually go do the work, because you feel light just thinking about it. No, you still have to go do it. So go do the work, go work the layers, and then witness the shift. Just allow it to soak in and celebrate and enjoy it all. And then you'll notice more of that feeling in your life. That is more of what you'll start to call in. So, under the questions, I do have a few more questions. I wanted to just round out that example. instead of going with it all day. So when you do tune in and ask the questions, this is when you connect to your intuition to enter problem solving mode. Like from this space is where you're able to actually create some shift and do something. My mentor calls it soul inspired action. And I love that. Like, it's not going to be like something that you come up with logically. It's going to, like, does it logically make sense that making a smoothie can help you deal with like serious conflict with your in-laws? No, like that does not make any sense. But on an energetic level, that's you taking care of yourself. That's you treating yourself. And like, it can almost be a little luxury to go and like cut up and blend up your stuff and throw it in your smoothie and like take some time to drink it or go for a walk. Like, you're going to come up with a variety of answers, and don't judge them. Like, it might be that you need to like have a dance party, like then have your dance party. You're going to have some weird stuff come up, I promise. And you're going to think there's no way this is the solution to this problem. Like, there's no way taking a nap is the answer to feeling overwhelmed and out of time. How does me sitting on my couch and sleeping for 20 minutes help me not having time to do stuff? But if you go do it, like, you'll wake up in a new space and your energy will be more whole, and you'll be able to approach the whole situation differently. So start to trust that little inner voice. It doesn't guide you wrong, I promise. Like, if you start to listen to that little voice, the first thing that pops up in relation to that answer, that's your intuition. It's not your mind. It's not you trying to fill in the blanks. Like, that is your intuition. And so follow that. Some of the other questions I like is, where's the lesson in this? Where is there space for me to grow, especially if it's something that you struggle with on a regular basis? That's really a question. Like, or if it's a pattern you're noticing or a theme that you see it in a variety of your relationships, or if you see it in all areas of your life, pausing and asking, like, okay, where is the lesson in this? What do I need to learn? And like, where is there room for growth for me to be able to experience this differently? And then another one of my favorites is, what in me is calling this in? And that one's a hard one. The ego has a hard time with that one, especially if it's like relationship and family conflict stuff. If someone else if you feel like people in your life are constantly crossing your boundaries, or if they're showing up and mistreating you, or if you feel like people leave, if you feel like people are always leaving you, if you feel like the people in your life don't support you, it's usually not about them. It's actually about you. And so that's when you turn it around and say, so what is it in me that is calling in this lack of support? What in me is calling in these people who are crossing my boundaries? What in me is calling in all of this like binge eating? Like, what is it in me? And then that is one of the harder, scarier places to go, but I promise you won't regret going there. And so you'll listen to your intuition there and like allow that to guide you. And once you find out what it is in you that needs healing, then that's when you start on the work. If you're like, okay, so maybe this is a pattern in me that feels like, so for example, if you feel like people are mistreating you, like everyone in your life is mistreating you, or like leaving and abandoning you, that's when you can dive in deep and look at it. And maybe it comes up that actually you're afraid of being abandoned. And so when you see other people show up in a way that makes you scared, that makes you afraid of your place in their life and in that situation, then your fear of abandonment is going to come up. And instead of talking about fear of abandonment with yourself, because that's a scary place to go, that's a responsible place to go, that's somewhere where like that's your own shit to deal with. It's so much easier to make it someone else's problem. So like, instead of going there, our mind goes to, oh, well, they're such a dick, they're always leaving, they're always treating me bad, that person's such an asshole. And when really, like, it usually at the end of the day has very little to do with the other person. I would say like relationship advice, relationship stuff, that has been my biggest lesson. And my biggest piece of advice for anybody is, good Lord, if you are in conflict with someone, it's it's got very little to do with them, and their conflict with you has very little to do with you. At the end of the day, it's both of your own stuff that like you're stirring for each other. So you're each other's triggers, yes. There may be things that are happening that aren't okay. Yes, like that happens. But at the end of the day, there's likely something within you that needs healing or desires healing. And so your soul is calling in these situations to have the opportunity to heal those layers. So that is when you go and you do the deep work. And that is what my work is all about. That is what I guide women through, is through that deep, through the mud. That has become my passion. And I've had the support of some amazing women guide me through the mud. And so now it's actually an honor and a gift to be able to turn around and help other women through that process. Because this whole process is something you can do, you know, in a few minutes. Like when you're in situational conflict and during the holidays, this will be an amazing tool for shifting how you're experiencing the family dynamic, how you're experiencing your relationship, how you're experiencing holiday shopping. But on a big picture level, this will change your life. Like it's a whole new way of living. And what it does, when you get grounded in this kind of work, you change the foundation that you live your life from. So the thoughts we have on a daily basis create our foundation. Like that creates the literal floor that we walk on. Every time we speak to ourselves, every time we have a belief and repeat it, we're creating this pathway. And that's the pathway we walk on. And that is the view we have. So if you're creating your pathway with all these limiting beliefs and thoughts and powerlessness, then, you know, your view is going to really suck. Like that path that you're walking on is going to look shitty. It is not going to look like this beautiful, amazing world. Like it might look like you're just in the swamp all the time. And you see all these other people who get to live on the mountains and you're like, ugh, why am I in the swamp while these people are in these beautiful mountains? You know? So when you start to lay down a different foundation, you start to change your thoughts, you start to reframe one situation at a time, you actually reframe that entire pathway that you live your life from. And next thing you know, you've built this new pathway up to the mountains where you get to be one of those people living life from the mountains. And nothing around you has changed. The people in your life don't have to change. Your situation doesn't have to change, but you change. And as you change, everything around you shifts. And that is like the magic of energy work and energetic reframing. And I'm going to leave it at that because I could talk about this for a month. I could keep y'all on Zoom for 6 hours just today. So I'm not going to do that. I will recap. I'll list them out in order again in case anybody missed some steps. So step number 1 is to get curious. Get curious about how you're feeling. Get curious about, like, you know, let me just observe the situation. It's like approaching it like a research or science experiment. You just pause, take a step back, and get curious and like take a look around at what's going on. And then you want to get grounded. You want to get grounded by accepting how you're feeling without judgment, without blame. Just get grounded and know that it is okay. It's going to be okay. You're here. You may as well just hang out here and shift your perspective because you're here anyways. So from that space, are you willing to see it differently? You know, you're in this space no matter what. The game changer is willingness. That's number 3. Are you willing to shift your perspective? Are you willing to experience life in a new way? If so, that's when you come to number 4 and you start asking the questions and you get in touch with your intuition and you go into problem solving mode. And then from there, you do the work and then you witness the shift. So get curious, get grounded, find your willingness, ask the questions, do the work. Oh, well, can't really count like this. Do the work. And then sit back and soak it up and witness the shift and absorb it all. It's amazing. So I will go ahead and unmute everybody now. All right, everybody is unmuted. If anybody has any questions or any questions about the steps, let's start with that first. If anyone has anything they need clarified, anything they missed, anything that like didn't make sense.
Okay, what are 4 and 5? I think I have just like a big jumble of notes with no actual distinction.
Yes. Okay. So, and then I skipped a step in my notes, so it might be kind of weird. So, number 1, get curious. Number 2, get grounded. 3, find your willingness. 4, ask the questions. 5, do the work. 6,
Okay.
witness the shift. So it's 6.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so what about that aggravating, I hate that question, what do I need right now? I don't know why I hate that question so much, but I can never answer it.
No, I understand. I used to hate that question. I remember the first time Keisha, like when I started going to counseling, Keisha had asked me, like, so what do you need? Like, what do you mean, what do I need? I can't need.
What do you mean?
Who am I to need things? So I would really start with just like, instead of looking at a conflict or a specific pattern, or instead of looking at something else, let that question be your subject. Like, let that be your subject of study instead of it being like a relationship or something else. So you can stop being curious about your relationship with that question. And so you've already done the first couple steps. You've gotten curious. You've gotten grounded in it. Like, it's uncomfortable to you. So you can stop and get curious about, like, so what is it? What is uncomfortable for you about it? What does it bring up for you?
Okay.
Share.
I like that.
Do you want to share about that? We can kind of work through it for a second. But we don't have
I don't know. I think I need to think about it for a while.
Okay. So, like, say it brings up some stuff around worthiness. You know, like, you can try to find the underlying emotion of, like, what is it about having needs that makes you uncomfortable? Did you make some sort of agreement, like, as a child, that you weren't going to have needs, that you weren't going to burden people with that? Did you maybe believe at some point that, like, you don't deserve to have needs, that, like, you're just not someone who has needs? And I don't know. So just like dive into that, like go into like the spirit place of the emotions, because I feel like you've already done the surface work with this. You know, this isn't your first time doing it. Try to go to that scary place and then get grounded in it and just accept it. And then you can stop at the step of, I'm willing to experience a new relationship with this question. Show me how. Like, you don't always have to take it through all 6 steps. Like, if you're feeling stuck on something, stop at that step. Stop at your willingness. Just observe and acknowledge your willingness to have a different relationship with that question. And you'll see things shift around. I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, me too. I need to have some quiet time when the William's not threatening to wake up and actually focus on it. But I like too how you said, and this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let somebody else ask you questions.
20 minutes.
Okay. I like how you point out the difference between like your momentary unwillingness versus a pattern of unwillingness. Because I had that moment of unwillingness the other week where it was like, I'm just angry and depressed right now, and I'm so sick of working on this all the time. I just want to be that for that day.
Yeah.
And
do it.
It just felt good to just be angry for like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on.
Yes.
But it's different than a pattern of unwillingness to deal with it. And I like that distinction.
Right, because that's the key, is knowing when to move on from that place. Like, let yourself be angry. Let yourself feel what you're feeling. But it's good that you notice like that. You're like, okay, now it's time to move on from this, because it's really easy to get stuck in that space. Like, anger is like seductive. It feels good to be angry.
It feels good to be angry sometimes.
Right. And it makes you feel like you have power. You know, you feel powerful when you're angry. Like, you can't hurt me because I'm mad. When really, like,
I'm mad.
The underlying stuff is actually, you can hurt me, and you have, and I'm really sad and scared about
now I'm mad.
Now I'm just getting mad to hide the fact that I'm scared and sad underneath. And so knowing that it's good. It's really cool. So do you have any other questions?
I was wondering, can you elaborate more on what in me is calling this in?
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Cool. Yes. So if like you find yourself in this pattern of experiencing things a certain way, so let's think. Let's dive in a little bit because I feel like this is specific to you. So what are one of the, how do you feel in relationship? Like what is, if you had to choose one word?
I'm not sure.
Wait, what? You're not sure.
I'm not
So
sure.
like maybe like
Maybe
how
I'm
do you
tired
feel tired?
of it. I don't know.
Like unchosen, and like that's just the word that comes up is like just a feeling of being overlooked and passed over, of like it's something for other people to experience, not necessarily you. This card keeps trying to pop up for you. Oh, I lost it. Okay, now I had a card that I thought was trying to come up for you. We'll see if it comes up again. So a place to go is just to just get curious about it. And so I would start with that first step of like, how am I feeling in this relationship? Or how am I feeling about this pattern here? And then once you know how you feel, and you can like take a moment to do a grounding exercise, just like take some deep breaths, remind yourself that you're safe, that it's okay to feel this way. Know that you're willing to see it differently, that you're willing to experience relationships differently. And then ask yourself from that space, like, okay, so what is it about me? Where do I feel that I'm not good enough to be chosen? You know, what in me feels overlooked? Does that make sense? Does that make more sense? Like, why do I feel I don't deserve to be in this kind of relationship? Like, what are my beliefs around myself feeling this way? I feel like a lot of times that's where that can, that's like a space where that can bring you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and we can chat more too. Next time we can get more specific.
Okay.
Cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Anything that they want, like just some intuitive guidance on now? So like maybe there's something happening in your life that a pattern that you're struggling with. We could walk through the reframing steps, or I could pull cards for you, or maybe come up with like what a question that you could sit with. So like Maddie, your question I think would be, rather than like, what is it in me that's calling it in, that feels vague for you. Like your system is kind of like, it's out here. You can't really pull it in and work with it. So like a question I would give you with something to journal about and sit with would be to look at how do I feel about myself? What do I deserve in a relationship? And look at your beliefs around who you are in a relationship and what you do and don't deserve, and what your value is in a relationship. Cool. Does that make more sense? Do you feel like you have something to like to work with?
Yeah.
Cool deal. And hey to everybody I didn't get to say hey to at the beginning of this. Inga, I see you like nice and big on there eating a snack.
I asked him what do I need, and it was food. I was like, okay.
Yeah, perfect.
I thought I heard crunching in my ear, but I didn't know what it was.
Oh, I forget Danny's on. I forget she's not on video.
I was like, it sounds like a carrot or something.
We got some crunch in the background. I love it. Cool. So if anybody has questions, like you can always come into the group and we can chat some more in the group. But I do want to offer a special for the people who are live on the call and for the people who watch the replay. So if you want in on this offer, just message me on Facebook and we can go from there. Or you can email me. I'll give you my email address at the end. But I want to offer, normally I do my energy clearings for $30 for like a person, and $45 for a relationship. But I want to offer you guys $20 energy clearings for either one, situation or relationship. So whatever is coming up as your big struggle this holiday season, if it's food, if it is a person, if it's your partner, if it's a family member, if it's a friend, if it's an internal pattern, whatever it is, like sometimes like before we can really dive in and do the work, it helps to clear out the heavy energy or the blocked energy that is keeping you from doing the work. Sometimes it's like there's like a puzzle to be solved under this piece of glass. And if that glass is super cloudy, if there's like years and years and years of dust on it, you're going to have to work really hard to figure out this puzzle under that glass. And so when we do an energy clearing, it kind of helps to brush off some of that dust and dirt so you can get a clearer picture at what's going on. And it also helps to clear out just some of like other people's stuff that you've picked up through interactions with them, other people's beliefs, other people's like negative energy and just like funk. If you're around someone who's like really unhappy a lot, it can kind of help to clear out their stuff and kind of bring you back to balance. So if you want in on that, if you want a $20 energy clearing, just you can message me through the group, or you can email me at Lauren, Lauren, at balancedrootsreiki.com, balancedrootsreiki.com. But messaging me through Facebook is probably the easiest thing. So I guess I'll open it up one more time for questions or comments or anything, and then I'll let you guys get back to your day. Cool. So let's just close it out with some mindful breathing together. I liked doing that together yesterday on Inga's call. So wherever you are, just take a moment, close your eyes, and just take a nice big inhale through the nose. Forceful exhale out the mouth. We'll do 3 of those together. 2 more. Last one. Close open the eyes using soft blinks. Alrighty. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Feel free to ask me questions in the group. Also, if you're local, I have my energy workshop tonight at the Birth Center. You can look on my business page for info on that. Message me if you want the energy clearings. And you don't want to miss tomorrow with Wanda. She's talking about crystals, so that'll be a fun one. But I guess I will see you guys all tomorrow. Sending you lots of love.